So just give us a couple minutes for a few more, and then we'll jump in. Okay, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. A few of you earlier said that you could see the screen okay and could hear me, so that's a good thing. All right, and thank you for joining us. And maybe some of you are watching the inaugural proceedings on TV, so maybe that's in the background, but hopefully you can focus on this and we can teach you a few things today. So thanks for joining. My name is Greg Paquette, heading up the clinical product development of CentralReach here and of the Learn module. All right, so I take feedback from our user base, learn about how everyone is, running therapy in their schools, in the homes, their methodology, and we try to incorporate some of those tools and those methods in our software. So I love doing these types of presentations where I can take feedback from the users, kind of put it into practice and show you how to use it in CentralReach and in Learn specifically. So that's a little bit about what I do. Throughout the presentation, any feedback is welcomed. You start with muted and you will continue to have muted microphones. So just go to the little question box on your dashboard and type any questions you have. And any suggestions, any questions about the presentation, and I'll stop from time to time and I'll answer those. Additionally, I have my colleague Nicole Matthews, one of our customer success managers, also a fellow BCBA with us here today. Nicole, do you want to say hello and say a little bit about what you do at CR?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. Well, welcome everyone on this great afternoon. My name is Nicole Matthews. I am a BCBA and a customer success manager here at CentralReach. So my primary job is to be pretty much an account manager for a lot of our organizations. I help with training, different workflows for different companies, as well as recommended practices. And I'm happy to be here today with Greg because this is where I kind of started at CentralReach as a Learn implementator. So excited to be here. So thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you. And both Nicole and I have worked or used CentralReach for probably over 7 years now. So used it at previous companies and now both work for CR. So it's been nice to see how it's progressed over the years. All right, and I am looking through the attendees today, and most of you are CR users, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. Sometimes we have prospective clients come on, but really just to give an overview, if you're newer to the system, I always start my presentations each month with, what is Learn? And really what that means is it's our clinical platform. It's our clinical toolkit. The two major parts of it are our online program books, our learning trees, where you can design and customize your goals and your targets, your stimuli sets, keep them in one place, share them amongst yourselves, other supervisors, other therapists, and even parents. So that's our online program book. We're going to dive into that a little bit today. And then, of course, we have our big mobile data sheets. So we have two versions of data sheets, a basic version, a more advanced version. We also have our group sessions, our group data sheets for social skills and lunch punch and all those types of things. And we also have our offline data sheets. So we have some different types of data sheets that users can use, both internet, no internet, and then of course individual and group. We have a lot of data analysis tools, and those are the things that we're going to really dive into today. So today's focus I'll get to in a minute, but really seeing what your therapists are doing, how they're doing, which goals are not being run, those types of things, how programs are progressing, okay? And then we're going to dive into a little bit about the electronic learning system. So we can make courses in CR. We can make courses in staff management binders as well, so you can create goals for your staff and help manage those staff. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit today. You can also store some assessments and, of course, report. So session notes, supervision notes, incident reports, progress reports. All right, so that's a little bit about Learn. I won't spend too much more time there. All right, so going on to today's focus, we're really going to learn how to monitor therapist performance, right? So we all know, we all have maybe our preferred therapists, some newer, some more advanced therapists, some that have strengths in one area, some that have, lesser, some areas that might need improvement. But how do we figure that out, right? Which programs do they run all the time? Which programs do they avoid? Who's getting better scores with one program? Who is getting lower scores, right? So we're going to dive into kind of how to monitor that. We have some metrics to show you. And then how to track, okay? So how do we track performance over time? We also want to learn how to set goals for our therapists. So if they start off not knowing a couple strategies, a couple skills, we want to know what those are. We want to put something in place to improve those, right? And we want to set some goals for them. So we have some visual analysis tools that you can help set some goals. And then, of course, what good are those visuals? What good is that data if you can't report on them? So we really want to take it full circle and see, okay, they're doing okay in this. They're doing a little, less okay in this area. And we want to report on that, and we want to show that staff member and help them improve. So we want to report on that in a nice, handy document that we can tie to performance reviews, yearly incentives, and, of course, progression up the ladder. All right, so those are some of our items of focus today. And for right now, I'm going to probably turn off this PowerPoint in a second, and I'm going to go to the CentralReach screen, and we're going to pass it to Nicole, who's going to walk you through some of the therapist metrics. So just give me a second to explain some of the things that we're going to go over, and then I'm going to pass it over to Nicole. All right. So we have a new tool under our graphs. It's called our Per Provider Graph tool. And you can really see how well your kiddo, your client, your consumer is doing on a particular skill with therapist A, therapist B, therapist C. Okay, so that's one thing that we'll go over. Then we're going to jump into our new improved goal list to capture some critical information, right? Which goals are not being run? Which goals are being run too often? Which are not being run at all? Which have no baseline data collection? So some of those things we're going to dive into. And then, of course, the next thing is going to use our goal dashboard to see who's collecting the most data. All right, so those are some of the metrics that we're going to do. And then just give me 1 second, and I will pass the controls to my colleague here. Let's see here. All right, Nicole, it's coming to you.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Greg. So as Greg had mentioned, we have a great tool that we are able to use to graph or to be able to see our graphs by providers who have added that data. So let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. I'm just here in our Learn module. You guys are all very familiar with this. Just going to open up one of my learning trees for one of my clients who have multiple staff working on the case. So today we're going to use Judy Bloom. And I am going to go ahead and I am just going to navigate over to one of her branches. And I'm going to look at her manding branches. So right here I have manding for videos that are in site and manding for cookies. I'm going to click on it because I want to be able to see who has been collecting data and what type of numbers are they getting when they're doing that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at graph. And right here, all I see right now is just my one line for all of my data points for this day. What I do want to do is when I come down to my data history, I can see that I do have multiple users that are adding data, but from this line right here, I can't distinguish who is doing what. When I come here to per provider, I'm going to click. And right here, I have the ability to see Bruce Springsteen in blue and the data that he has input, as well as Annie Lennox right here in black. So it gives me a good idea that, hey, it does look like they are basically taking the same type of data. So we are looking at some reliability and validity right here and running the program. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at cookie. Same exact thing. Look at my graph. I see my one intervention line, or my one data collection line. If I just want to look there, if I want to dig a little deeper again, I just come here and look at my per provider. And once again, blue is Bruce Springsteen and black is Annie Lennox, and I can see which data they are taking. In addition, I can always come down to the data entry history right here, and I can look at trial by trial what that would look like. Just remember, you have to have at least 2 providers in order to look at a per provider graph. And I do have one example that actually has 3 providers. In this example, I was the BCBA who was inputting some data, maybe retroactively, through the organizational account. And then I also had Bruce and Annie doing their typical sessions. Crazy graph. So right here you see our one line of data collection. And then when I go to per provider, I'm going to have 3 different lines here. So right here, I have Book-A-Beat, our organizational account in blue. I have Bruce Springsteen in black, and I have Annie's data collection in green. And again, you can always come down to the data entry history and be able to see a play-by-play of what those data points are for. So this is a cool thing that you can see who is taking data. And for me, as a BCBA, what I want to be able to see is who is getting different types of data. So why is it that perhaps Annie Lennox is getting better numbers and the child is tacting mom more often or more correctly for Annie than they are for Bruce? And maybe we just look at what that looks like during the session and make sure they're running it the correct way and make sure that reliability and validity is there. Any questions about the per provider graph? Okay, so the next thing that I am going to look at is looking at goal progress. So we all want to know, we have providers in the homes every week, but as BCBAs and program supervisors, we can't be in the home every day. We have to be able to look at the data collection from afar in order to be able to see what is going on in the homes and how things are progressing or not progressing. So in the Learn module, we have another feature called the goal list. So let me come up here to Learn. And I'm going to go right here to goal list. This is an awesome feature because it allows us to see a snapshot of all of our goals and all of our targets and how they are progressing. You have the ability to filter by domains, filter by types of targets that you have, or types of goals such as long-term goals, short-term goals, or targets. And so at first, it looks a little overwhelming when you first come to the page because you are going to get a representation of all of the trees that are shared with you and all of their goals. What you're going to want to do is use those filter capabilities in order to filter down to what you really want to look at for right now. When I was in the field as a BCBA, I would always be coming to this page and I would filter one client at a time in order to do treatment planning on a weekly basis. So for this, you can do 2 things. One, I can come up here and I can type Judy's name up here, or I can come right over here to this nice little filter on the name. And then these will pull up all of Judy's goals right here. So these are all of the things that are in her current learning tree or learning trees in case you may have some providers have a speech language, a speech therapy tree, and then an ABA tree. All of those will be able to be seen as long as those are shared with you. So right here I filtered to Judy, and now I'm going to filter it a little bit more. I'm going to come over here to type. And I'm not really taking data on my long-term goals for most of them. Most of them I'm taking my data on my targets. So I'm going to filter right here by target. I have the ability over on the left-hand side to filter by status. So maybe I just want to know about all those progressing ones. Or if I'm writing a report and I want to know what has been met, this is an easy way for me to see which ones have been met. So for today, we're going to look at progressing. So all of these blue P's right here, M's, obviously, those are the ones that are met. And then you will also see gold or yellow for on hold or discontinued. So let me go ahead and click on progressing. It will also give us the ability to look at the date that it was in progress. So when did you first start taking data collection for this? The domain is something that we added when you were setting up your learning trees. However, if some of these areas are blank, no fear. All you have to do is come over here and click on the goal, and you'll be able to say what the domain is, or you can just edit it. So this one was for manding. So typically it'd be in a communication domain. If for some reason I had something wrong in there, I just come here and go to settings. I can choose that maybe it came from the VB map as an assessment. The service provider is responsible. And right here I can click my domain for communication. You can also set any record or discipline right here. I'm going to save it. And I am just going to go back to my bundle right here. So here we are with Judy. You can go ahead and change these domains. Right here in this column, you're going to be able to see the phases. So this is just saying what phase is this target that I'm looking at currently in. So it's telling me that it's in intervention. And over here in count, I'm going to move this little count over. Another cool feature is you can move some things around. In count, it's telling me how many days or how many data collection points I have for it while it was intervention. So far I've collected, or my staff have collected, 7 data points in the intervention phase for this target manned for video when it is in sight. We are using % independent as our data collection. I can see in a bird's eye view that my baseline was 33.3% independent during baseline. Intervention, my average score right now for intervention is 59% of the time. That child is manding for video when it is in sight independently. And then I have right here my score. So the score is your last data point entry. So you just have to distinguish between intervention is the average and score is just your last one. So you have the ability to move these columns along however you want to set it up. If you were to click right here on this graph, it will actually take you to the active graph for that target. If you come up here to this widget, you have a couple of other options that you can add to this graph. So it's totally customizable by what you want to see. If you don't want to see what date it was in progress, you can go ahead and click off of it, and it will remove it from the columns. You also have the ability to add things. You can say what % of completion. I want to see the graph, the method, the baseline, the intervention. All of this is available to you to customize how you are looking at these items. One other cool feature that we have here is that you have the ability to look at trends. So right here on the right-hand side, you can see trends for each of these targets. You either have increasing, which is green, decreasing, which is red, or stable or no change, which is yellow. So that is cool on the target area that you would be able to see this. The ones that do not have a trend are either those ones that are currently in baseline or those that are currently not, do not have any data for them. So maybe I put something in progress yesterday and I want to start taking data, but no data has yet been entered, then that would just be a blank box that has nothing to report on. Same thing in this phase area. If you have some blank spaces, this would just be for a combined graph or something that does not yet have data collection. So this is a great feature for you to look at maybe at the end of the week or at the end of the month to see where that child's targets are, how they're progressing, and where change may need to happen. So if I would come in here, I would typically look at the red, say, uh-oh, what is going on? I would go back to my graph. I would look at the data collection, and then I would make any changes as needed. The other great thing that you can do really quick is if I want to keep Judy Bloom and looking at her targets, because I do this every Friday, and I don't want to have to go through and do the filters, I can just come here and say, save this view as a filter, and I can name it Judy's Target Overview, whoops, weekly. And this is one of those weekly things that I'm going to do. And then I'm just going to hit save. And then when I'm here every Friday, I can come here to my filters and just say, give me Judy's Target Overview weekly, and bam, it will pop up for me and I can get busy right here doing the work I need to do. You also have the ability to look at which staff did not enter baseline or if there's no data for some of the programs. Any questions in this area for the goal list? All right. So the other cool feature that we have is to really look at what are the therapists doing on a daily basis. So what you can do is you can come back here to clinical, and let's go and look at the goal dashboard. So the goal dashboard is another page within the Learn module. It is a tool that will help us quickly see the progress of a client or of a group of clients that have been assigned to us. It shows the progress of goals, the percent that has been achieved, as well as any inactivity of a goal, so things that have not been run, as well as the amount of data points that a provider has added within a week or a month, however you want to look at it. So right here in my account, if I'm the BCBA, I come in and I say, okay, here is my goal dashboard. I currently have 15 clients and I have 14 providers. Obviously, I don't need to see all of this information for all of my clients at once, so I'm going to filter down because I just am concerned about Judy for right now because I'm doing her treatment planning and looking at her staff. So when I come here, after I search, I have the ability over here in the left-hand column to look at, based on the learning trees that I have for Judy, she has achieved 8% of her goals that I have written for her that are currently in progress. Nothing is currently on hold, and 91% of her goals are progressing. I can also look at this in a count. So right here, I can say she has achieved 3 goals and 34 are currently progressing. So she has a total of 37 goals that are currently being worked on, or that were being worked on, 34 currently, and 3 that have been mastered. So that is up to you how you want to look at that. The next column over here on the left is goal inactivity. I like this because it allows me to see which goals are not being worked on. So if a child is, say, not manding for video anymore and I'm not certain why that is happening, I can come look at my goal and activity alert and I quickly see like, oh, well, lookity there. Manned for video hasn't been run, or at least there's no data to say it has been run in over 30 days. So it makes me go back to my staff and say, hey, why are we not running this? And they may say, hey, she doesn't like videos anymore, and that's fine. But it gives me an idea of what is not being run. Right here you can see man for cookie, that was just run today or yesterday. contacting for mom has been only 2 days without inactivity. And so this is really great. You have an option to look at all alerts, less than 60 or less than 30 right here. And then underneath there, you also have the ability to look at provider activity. So this is nice because sometimes we want to know how many data points our staff are putting in a particular week based on the amount of hours that they may be working. So right here, I can see I have 3 providers. I have my organizational account that people may be placing data in. I have Annie and I have Bruce who are also taking data. So I can see that my, let me go here. So that's all alerts. Let's just look in the last week. I can see that Annie has been quite busy the last week. So in her one appointment that she may have had, she put in 14 data points. And Bruce put in 12 data points. And through the organizational account, there's only been 1 data point entered. So you'll be able to see that. You can also look at it by month or by all. So that is nice to see. If your staff have similar hours of sessions per week, why is one therapist getting more data than another therapist, and be able to look at why that might be happening. In the middle, we have a visual representation of client progress. So right here, we have a nice bar graph that gives you the ability to see achieved, progressing, and total goals. You also have the option to click on and off of these, whether or not you want to see totals or progressing, however you want. You also have the option to look at days and months. I like to look at the weekly, actually, because that's when I'm doing my treatment planning. And when you hover over, you get another quantitative representation of what the bar graph is showing you. The second visual underneath it is the pie graph, or your little pie chart. This is telling me about the domain. So how many goals do I have per domain? And really based upon your client, you'll maybe be heavier in programming for communication or behavior reduction than maybe learner readiness and things like that. So these domains are calculated based on how you distinguish those domains in the last section when we were looking at our goal list, or when you are setting up your goals. So right here I see communication. I have 20 goals in communication. If I was to click on this link right here, it would take me back to my goal list and show me those 20 goals. Same thing for behavior reduction and aggression. So this is great. You can also look at it through discipline, record, assessment, or responsibility. And then on the end, trending by domain, you have the ability to look at trends, and obviously red, green, and yellow. Yellow is no change, red is decreasing, and green is increasing trends. And you have a little quantitative how you want to look at it. Any questions about the goal dashboard or the goal list and how you can utilize both of those to look at your clients or your providers?
Yes, Nicole, there is a question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, did you say data points or the total number of opportunities or learn units provided per week, month, day? That was just a couple minutes ago. So if you could explain.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So the question was, did you say data points or the total number of opportunities or learn units provided per week, month, day?
In provider activity alert?
It might have been in reference to provider activity. Yes, it was in reference to provider activity. And then another question was, can you view goal inactivity by provider?
So this provider activity alert right here is the data points. So they may have done 10 trials, but that would be 1 data point if they graphed it. So these are data points that have been added. And then the second question was goal inactivity by provider.
Yeah, so I think the question is, so if you go up to the top and you search in one child, so if you go search for just one kid, so that the answer to the question is by kid. So if you pull up a child or a client, you're going to see the goal in activity for that client, and then also the provider activity, but you can't currently see broken down
Oh,
by Annie or Bruce.
yeah.
Yep.
So you're not really sure who was the last person to put in this um,
Yep.
data point unless you go back and look at the graph or look at it here. Yeah.
All right, cool. So those are the questions for now. And then, Nicole, do you want to pass it over to me and I'll jump into some staff tracking?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let me see. Let me just get my stuff here. All right, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go over real quick how to make a staff tracking book, and then how to collect data on those skills that we want to track of our therapists. And I'm going to do that via a session, show you how to share that, and show you how to set goals. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go over right now. Let me just go to my CR screen real quick, and then I'll jump right in. All right, so I'm going to see my CR screen right here, and I am currently sitting in my library. Okay, so what I did, and what a consultant or what an agency should do if they want to do something like this, is they're going to make a library template. All right, so you're going to go to your library, and you are going to add a new book. And what we're going to do first is, rather than adding a book for a child, a learning tree that we typically make, a program book, we're going to add one that's just generic, that can be used over and over and over again. Okay? So all I did, again, was go to my library and I made a book and I searched for the word staff. Okay? These things popped up. So I'm going to show you my template that I made and then how to use something like this. Okay? So I'm going to do staff performance book, and it's going to look a little something like this. And this is just my example. You can do whatever you like with this, okay? But I have a staff performance tracking book. Notice that it's just by me. It's not assigned to anyone yet, all right? I can make branches just like I do with a learning tree for a client, okay? So I have mine broken into administrative duties, which is then further broken down to what I want my staff to work on, right? Pre-session responsibilities, post-session responsibilities, data collection, clinical, and interaction with others, okay? So I have some interaction with caregiver, explaining procedures in objective terms. I have all these different data collection, targets for my therapist, okay? And again, this is just a template. I can't do anything with it until I assign it to someone. The moment that you assign it to someone is when you can start taking data for that staff, okay? So once I have my book set up, I can click assign, and then it turns into an official learning tree for that staff, okay? Once you assign it, it's going to be housed in your courses and training link right here. Courses and training is different than our clinical because these are for kiddos. Our learning trees are for kiddos, our clients, our consumers. Courses and trainings are for our staff, okay? It's just where it lands. So if I hop into my courses and training, I then can search for my staff book. So I'm just going to type in staff, and now I have two books. I have one book that I made for us today that's assigned for Katie Safety, and then I have another book assigned to BB, okay? Notice that BB's book was started on 7/12, and Katie's Safety was started 10/18, okay? You can also see the updated date, all right? So when I pop open that book, it's going to bring me to something similar, right? Something that looks similar to my template, but now it's ready to rock. The only difference is that it's still by me, but I've assigned it to Katie, okay? So I did this previously, but how to assign it is really just go to your book and push that big blue assign button, okay? So now that it's assigned, I have all my stuff. Blue means it's in progress, okay? So if I click something, it really just means that it's in progress, and then I can report on this later. Because remember, I'm going to show you how to report on this to print out a nice a nice comprehensive report for your team and for your staff. Okay, so I have my sections, and each one is going to be able to have data collected for it. Okay, all these are just placeholders, but these items here that I'm clicking on are going to have a graph and a rating scale. All right, so here's one, data sheet printed and materials known gathered for session. I have my little rating scale right here. Okay, and you can define that however you want. I can mess with this a little bit, right? I can say does not have the skill, right? I can tweak anything I want, okay? So I can just do that and make sure I change it, okay? The other thing you can do with these is, again, mine is a rating scale because I selected rating scale right here, okay? So each one of these little things is going to have a graph, okay, just like a learning tree, all right? And you can also add a goal to a graph, okay? So this red line is a goal that I've added as just a visual representation of how well that staff member is doing, okay? So some of these are going to have goals, some of them are just going to have data, all right? Now how to add that goal is if we take one of these and I click one, notice it doesn't have a goal. I can just come in here and I can add one. Okay, so that View tab, and I can set a goal for my staff member. So let's say I want them to master this skill, the top level of a 5. I can come in here and set a goal for them. All right, now that will have a nice goal, a visual representation for them to look at. All right, and for me to see kind of where they started and where they are now. All right, I could even go back if I needed to and set a new goal. So if I started, obviously I just put a 5, right? That's the top tier goal. But if they started at a 1 or a 2, I might start with a 3, change that criteria to a 4, change it to a 5. Okay, so that's how simple it is. You can just set a goal and it becomes a nice little red line on your graph. Okay, now for a supervisor, you might have a staff member, aka Katie Safety, and she might work with me, she might work with 2 of my colleagues, right? So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to share it with anyone that needs it, okay? So I'm going to delete this person, and I'm just going to show you how to share again, all right? So right now, Katie the staff, I'm trying to be very transparent with her. She has access to this book, okay? I'm going to give her read-only access because I do not want her changing or deleting any bad scores, right? That would defeat the purpose of this, okay? So I'm going to give her read-only. I'm the owner, and I'm going to give the other supervisors, and maybe one more, Joe Schmo, access to this book, okay? Joe Schmo can edit, this other supervisor can edit, and Greg P., the other supervisor, can edit. All of us can edit minus Katie, so we can all come in here and put in our own data when we are observing Katie with a child, okay? So that is a little bit about the book, but I am going to show you how to quickly enter data, all right? Obviously, I can come in here and I can timestamp, right? If I did this yesterday, let's say, I can say, okay, that's her score, right? That is not that challenging, but it's much simpler to actually just make a data sheet, share that with the supervisors, and pull it up while you're in session, okay? So how I do that, obviously, is I just create that session out of the book, pop it open, I name it, right? Katie's Performance Tracking Sheet 2017, and I pick my tree, and I'm going to click all my data branches, right? All my skills that I want to work on, and I could add all the branches. Okay, I could add all those branches, and then that would become my data sheet. All right, so I've already created one, so I'm going to just jump to the one I already have created and show you how just simple, very simple it is while you're in the field, how you can collect data on it. All right, so again, I have my book, and I'm going to go grab my current data sheet, my session, and I'm going to take some data. So all I do is I can type in Katie Safety, and find a data sheet that's assigned to her. Okay, right here. And I can use the old version, but I prefer the new version right here, our session beta, our new version. And this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my timer. Okay, I could start it over so it starts fresh. I forgot to do that last time. All right, here I go. So the therapist is working, and I just pull this up. All right, so was the staff member knowledge about previous session data? Yes, she was, right? Was the data sheet printed and materials known? Well, she's using an online data sheet, but I haven't updated this yet, right? But materials were gathered. She's ready to rock, okay? Did she check for any other updates from her supervisor? Yes, she did. I watched her check my notes from the day before, okay? She nailed that one. Cleanup at the end of the session, we're not there yet. Recaps with the caregiver, we're not there yet, okay? So I'm going to bounce to a few. All right, you can always bounce up and down. So I'm just going to say, yeah, whoa, she didn't do too well. She missed all her incidental trials today. She did not record data after trials. That's a point of feedback. So another thing I can do is if I have a low score here, I'm going to scroll over here and I'm going to make a note of it. Remember to record data following each instance of skill acquisition programs, okay? And hopefully this doesn't cut off on the GoToMeeting here, but really what I did is I'm in the bottom corner and I have my comments, okay? So what this does is it adds a comment tied to this skill right here. So either me, right, I can go back later and review with her, or she can review later, okay? So does she record following the occurrence of aberrant behavior? She actually did that, right? So she doesn't do it following trials, but she does it here, okay? And as you can see, I'm not going to go through all of these, but throughout the course of that day, the supervisor might come in and might say, yeah, she did that. You know, I actually watched her. She used physical praise, verbal praise. She went and bounced on the trampoline. She sang songs, right? Her prompting was spot on, okay? And then at the end of the day, let's pretend I'm going to graph that data, okay? So all I do is I can come up here, I can graph all that data in one click, and it knows which ones have data, okay? Knows which ones have data right here. All right, it also lists all your zeros. You can check your work. If they got a 0 on a skill, you would have to click it because the system doesn't know if you actually just disregarded that today or if you really needed a 0. Okay, but everything's ready to rock. Scroll down, and I graph all of them. Okay, so it added data to everything that I needed, everything that I did that day. Okay, so I would shut this down, stop my timer, put it away, go back to my supervisor duties. Okay, if I refresh this, I'm back in the book now, and I'm going to see the data that I just took, right? So if I click a graph, January 20th, I must have clicked a 4, right? I got a 4 on this skill. There it is right there, okay? A 4. All right, now if I go to this one, I'll show you one more example. See how quick it is? Right here, January 20th, score of a 5. Now let's pretend, fast forward, that this actually was met, right? So we started here, we have an increasing trend, this person has mastered it. You can do the same thing you do with a kiddo's learning tree, right? And you can master out that target, all right? So that staff can, feel very, very good about themselves. You can even say, a job well done, right? And you can make a little note of it, and now they have a little comment log that they're doing phenomenal, right? A little praise for them. The other thing that pre-session responsibilities now, you have a graph, they've mastered one item in that pre-session responsibilities, and I can even look at it a little bit deeper into percent. I know that they've mastered 33% of those skills All right, so you can do the same stuff, all right, as you can with a kiddo's book. All right, so questions about this stuff, but I'm going to show you how to pull this nicely into a report real quick. All right, let's see here. Will there be an ability to video a therapist for 10 or so minutes during a session and have it tied to a given session data sheet? Ooh, wonderful. Okay, so currently you can upload any video that you want, right? So you could, on your iPad, on your iPhone, on your Android, take a little video clip, and what I would do is I would simply, if it's in administrative duties or interaction with others, let's just pretend it's right here, interaction with others, I would simply do this. Add a branch, and I simply skip over and I put video of Katie during, DTT 119, I guess it's the 20th today. All right, and so all I do is I upload that video right here. Okay, video right here, choose a file. All right, so I could put that video just so you can see it right there. It would be waiting for me right there, and the therapist can view that video. Now, in the future, something that CR is going to do is take videos internally, okay? Internally, so you don't have to do it on your iPad and upload. You can do it internally, all right? Where does the staff find their session info? The same place as their client sessions. Yep, go in here, search for the name. And then, is this web-based only or is there an app? So great question. To get the videos working, the videos definitely need to be online. You have to have internet for the online, the videos, right? You have to be online for videos. But we do have an offline session. Submit a ticket and we can get you more information about the offline. You would be able to do your data collection offline, not the videos, okay? All right, let's see. I'm going to jump to another couple questions in a moment. I'm just going to jump to the last topic real quick. All right. So how do I do a report? Very, very simple. Okay. Normally, people think of going to their clients, okay, and then doing a report. It's the same way. You just go to employees, okay? Same process. Go to employees, and right now I'm going to give you a nice print off of the last month's progress of, where's my little kiddo? Katie Safety. Well, not kiddo, staff member. All right, Katie's my staff member. I'm going to click, and I'm going to go to her profile. Okay? I'm going to go to her profile, and I'm going to do a nice note for Katie. Okay? A nice little note for Katie. So, I have some that I just tested, but I'm going to show you how to make a new one. All right? Katie, add a new note, and I'm going to, I have a little note called Staff Tracking Reporting Document. All right? Very nice title there. I'm going to choose myself as the provider. I'm going to type in Katie Safety and the date. Okay? That's just the title of the document. So you can find it nice and easy. So, staff performance review, and this is just a note and a form, right? A note/form. Months covered, let's just say January. And the staff member is Katie Safety. These little boxes with the pencils prompt me to write. It knows I'm the supervisor because I told it already. Things to work on this quarter, okay? Goals, 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 right? I'm not going to waste the time writing some, but it's just a little text box. Things done well, right? She is a rock star, all right? Make it a little more objective, right? A little more professional. But here's the kicker right here, the graphs on progress, all right? What this is going to do is it's going to load her skills, and it's going to be extremely easy, right? It has all the sections to make it easy for us, and to have a complete document, I'm just going to click all of them. Then I can change around my date range, right? I could do only January, but for ours, just to get a little more data, I forget when I started this, but I'm going to put the 19th to the 20th and push continue, okay? So that is how I generate. It's going to generate, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. We do have a question. Can notes and forms be done in offline? Ooh, not yet, not yet. We are in the beginning stages of developing an app, and notes and forms should be included in phase 1. Look out in the newsletters that come out and learn a little bit more about the timeline of our phase 1 of an application, okay? But notes and forms will not be on offline currently. All right, so I have it broken down by area, short-term goal area, and skill, okay? And what I have here, I'm going to make it a little smaller so we can see a little more. We have the skill involving others, family members, date first tracked, average score, and current score. And then what I did is I pulled the graph, an average weekly graph, so I can see how it progresses over time by week. Okay? Jumping to the next graph, again, first tracked, average score, current score. Okay? So on and so forth. So I'm going to see very nicely how this staff progresses, and of course you can change the colors, right? For presentations I make it pop, but you can have black. All right? And then the next area, the next skill, next skill, next skill, next skill, okay? Then next area, right? And then each graph, all right? Very easy stuff, all right? When you're done with a first area, it will give you the next big area, which, right there, right? Administrative duties, and then the next area, all right? And you can write in here, right? You can make a little note. So I can come in here and say, needs to work on this, right? I mean, I can do anything I want, all right? The other cool thing, if you're not familiar with notes, is you're just going to scroll to the bottom and you're going to have your signatures, right? So I can click, I can sign off on that document that we reviewed it, and then I choose Katie. Katie gets the document as well, and then it goes to her file cabinet in her account. Okay, so it's auto-saving right now. That's why I had the error. Okay, so now she gets that document, and she gets notified that something's been shared with her. Okay, so you can tie that document to anything you'd like. Maybe a few skills needing mastery equals a pay increase, right? You know, anything you'd like. All right, and again, you can share that report with anyone that needs it. Okay, anyone that needs that report. Here's my track reporting document, and I can share it. I auto-shared so that her other supervisors already get it. Okay, so that's a little bit about how you can track performance, right, with a template that you make in your library. Then you assign it to a staff. It becomes an active document. You share it with the supervisors that need it, right, so you can collaborate. You work through it via manual data entry in the tree or session data entry, okay, to make it nice and quick and nice and easy. Add those comments, right, as you go, and then create a document, a note in a form like this one, where you can pull your graphs, all right, and you can pull any type of graphs. You can simply pull cumulative records if you need to of how many skills are mastered in some areas. You can do whatever you'd like, and then you can share it with who needs it. All right, so that is a little bit about how to track performance, right? So in summary, Nicole had showed you some metrics such as, you know, the graph provider tool. That's kind of digging deep into programs, right? How well is the child doing with this staff? How well is the child doing with that staff, right? So that's helpful there. Then she dove into, you know, the goal list. Which programs are being run, right? The blank lines mean no one's been running them. You can look at the date introduced and compare it to how many counts it has been entered, right? So if you introduced a skill in November and it's been run once, that's a problem staff, I would think, right? Then you can look at high skills, high counts. Maybe they're prioritizing that skill, and low counts, they're not running that skill. And then, of course, she showed you the goal dashboard, which is, again, under here. So we have the goal list, goal dashboard. Goal dashboard shows that inactivity. You can break it down by client currently. So client, inactivity, and see how many programs each staff member is running. All right. Cool. So that is it for today. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you're more familiar with the goal list, the goal dashboard, graph by provider. Someone asked about IOA, so I typed that answer. That is one of our big projects. We really want to have kind of like a shadow shift in sessions. So the therapist opens a session, they take data, the supervisor opens a shadow shift, aka a session that is the same but doesn't affect the graph, right? And then it spits out the matching or not matching, prompts, percentages, trial scores, and that will compile. Okay, so that's something that we're looking to do this year. Okay, but hopefully some of these things plus the reporting, using those courses and training to make a staff document will help you. All right, so that is our time for today. Any last minute questions? All right, cool. Thank you, Beth. Awesome, guys. Well, have a happy Friday. You'll see this in probably a chronicle, the alert that we send out, or the learn alert, a taping of this, or in our help section. Okay, so have a great weekend, and we will see you all later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Greg.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye.